This is week 2 Garcia, and I'm going to be talking today a little bit about the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, the Omni diet, some of the results, and a little bit of the background and history behind each diet. So what is a Mediterranean diet? It was a diet that was kind of discovered, I guess you could say, by Tai-Seale in 1960s when he was doing the 7-country study, and he noticed that people in this region tended to consume fruits, vegetables in greater quantities, and I guess compared to the other countries that he was looking at, as well as moderate wine consumption with each meal, and a diet that was also high in olive oil and nuts and whole grains. And there was an emphasis on eating meat sparingly, and the meat that was consumed was typically fish. Let's see here. Do we know for sure that the Mediterranean diet or the Cretans' diet produced longevity? And research does demonstrate that when consuming this diet, when it's not, I guess, influenced by Western culture, because once a diet reaches America, we have a way of kind of changing things in our favor and taking away all the health benefits that would have been. So when you stick with the diet the way that it was originally intended to be consumed, which is just the way that the people in this region of the world lived in, it wasn't really a diet to them, it was a lifestyle. Yes, it does produce longevity, and it was the diet also in association with the lifestyle. So adopting more physical activity, just the way of life over there, a little bit slower. Just they enjoyed life more. They, that emphasis on balancing family time, physical activity, work, sleep, and they didn't lead a very stressful lifestyle. So I think that also was very critical in the longevity that the people in this region of the world experienced. Do we know that what we generally call the Mediterranean diet decreases cardiovascular disease risk or other risks? And yes, again, this is true, but under the assumption that when consuming the diet in this form, it is consumed the way it was meant to be consumed when in comparison to the Crete diet. So again, emphasis on the fruits, vegetables, nuts, the EVOO, so extra virgin olive oil, drizzled, not fried, and wine in moderation. So we know that wine has resveratrol, and that's a very potent antioxidant. So just looking at the diet that people in this region consumed, it was very balanced and effortless, if you will. Something really unique about it was the content of the whole fat content of the dairy products that were consumed. So anything dairy was whole fat, so whole fat yogurt, whole fat milk, and there was never, I guess, a concern with excess energy intake that would result in excess weight gain, because again, the people in this region of the world lived very active lifestyles. Unintentionally, it was just the way of life for them. So we know that it does decrease cardiovascular risk when followed the way that the people in this region of the world consume this diet. And interestingly enough, it also decreases risk factors associated with metabolic syndrome. So we know that metabolic syndrome is characterized by elevated lipids, high blood pressure, excess abdominal weight, and the insulin resistance. And so it's also been determined in research that when adopting this diet, it does help lower those risk factors, so thus reverse the effects of metabolic syndrome. So metabolic syndrome would then kind of graduate to more serious chronic diseases, so high blood pressure, and could lead to heart attack and stroke. And so that's really where that cardiovascular risk being decreased is seen when this particular diet is consumed. If I was to follow a Mediterranean diet, what would a Mediterranean breakfast, lunch, or dinner look like? I went ahead and went with the breakfast, and a breakfast would look something like whole fat yogurt. So again, we're seeing that whole fat as opposed to low fat or no fat, and we would put in maybe some blueberries, mix in some almonds. We would also consume whole wheat bread, so whole wheat toast, and we would drizzle the olive oil again on it, and just something very, very simple like that. Minimal preparation, I think, was key. So consuming these fruits, vegetables, these dairy products in their most natural form. What is the difference between a Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet? So I think one of the most noticeable differences when looking at the Mediterranean and the DASH diet was the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet both kind of encourage that high fruit and vegetable content as part of the diet. They do whole grains. The DASH diet emphasizes whole grains, but I believe they don't always have to be consumed in whole grains. It's just encouraged that at least half be consumed in that form. However, the Mediterranean diet, again, going back to the whole fat dairy content, there was really no restriction, versus the DASH diet is more of a diet meant to control excess caloric intake. So the DASH diet was more of a diet meant to lose weight, as opposed to the Mediterranean diet that was just a lifestyle. So the DASH diet again would include dairy products that were low in fat or fat-free. What is the difference between DASH and Omni? So I believe that the Omni diet kind of piggybacked off the DASH diet and the recommendations, and so the DASH diet again had the fruits, vegetables, meats in limited amounts, but the Omni diet really encouraged increasing those fruits and vegetables and increasing the protein content, also increasing the monounsaturated fatty acid content of the foods, versus the DASH diet that may be a little bit higher in carbohydrates in comparison to the Omni diet. And something new. So I've always been kind of interested in the Mediterranean diet, and again, why it is that this group of people were able to kind of stave off chronic disease so well, using a diet that here we would see as just too many calories, too much fat, too much, of all these different macronutrients. So in one study that was recently done, it looked at population of men and women ages 50 to 83 or 84, I believe. This was by Barboa. Let me just double check that. Babbio and colleagues, in 2014. So they collected the information from 2003 to 2010 on this group of individuals that were at risk for developing cardiovascular disease. And what they did was they went ahead and randomized them into 3 different groups. So there was the group on the Mediterranean diet and control group. The Mediterranean diet with supplemented extra virgin olive oil in their diet, and a Mediterranean diet with nuts. So after getting all the data collected, what they found was in this group of individuals that was susceptible or had already begun to develop metabolic syndrome, so again characterized by the high blood pressure, the insulin resistance, so the higher fasting glucose, and high blood pressure, and the increased weight around the waist. What they saw was that using this diet in that way as medicine, really, they were able to reverse the onset of the condition. So that was really interesting to me, because I've always felt that nutrition and diet in general is medicine, and it's all about how we use that to our benefit. Okay, thank you.